reference number on the 18th of September 2017 on the above subject and informs you that the reinstated officer, Abdulrasheed Maina, Deputy Director, has resumed duty in the Ministry of Interior. So what he told us yesterday, that it's not possible that this will happen without the knowledge of the Office of the Head of Service. And then he also said that this letter suggests that there's an acknowledgement of a previous letter from the Office of the Head of Service.
Yes, there was a letter from the Office of the Head of Service putting the Minister of Interior on notice. That letter was for the purposes of information, not action. Because at the Ministry of Interior, the Senior Civil Service Committee there sat and met, and then they made recommendations to the Federal Civil Service Commission, who earlier sat on the matter. And eventually, between the Ministry of Interior and the Federal Civil Service Commission, they reached a resolution for a reinstatement. The letter which emanated from the Office of the Head of Service of the Federation was a notice to the Federal Ministry of Interior, not an action letter that declared that Maina should be reinstated. In the first instance, that ought to be the process, because when the head of service when the Federal Civil Service Commission makes appointments, those appointments were directed to the head of service of the Federation for redeployment and posting. But in this case, it was not done. And so I said there's a conspiracy theory between the Federal Civil Service Commission and the Ministry of Interior Affairs.
Let me ask you,
like I said,
let me jump in and squeeze this in. Ms. Uket, yes, just a moment. Yes. Pardon me to jump in on this one. When you say there's a conspiracy, and then you say that that letter was for her, or for her information and not for action, does that then suggest that the Office of the Head of Service was aware of possible reinstatements of Mr. Maina, or she was aware of what may likely happen, but no directive came from her office as to whether or not he should be reabsorbed?
Fantastic. The head of service of the Federation was put on notice, and she communicated same to the Ministry of Interior Affairs. And ordinarily what could have happened was that the head of service of the Federation would have written conveying the approval of the reinstatement of Maina into the Federal Civil Service. And that letter ought to have emanated from her office to the Ministry of Interior. But that letter never did. There was no letter like that. And then eventually, the head of service of the Federation had a letter emanated from that office to the Ministry of Interior. And consequent upon that, a query was issued from her office to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, asking him to explain within a few hours, that was Monday this week, within a few hours, why they should parade letters which did not mandate.
Just a minute, we need to go to break. We'll come back and let you conclude your thoughts in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back, Ms. Uket. Let me ask this. I mean, is it possible that someone of the status of Mr. Maina can be reinstated in the civil service without the knowledge or permission of the Office of the Head of Service?
Yes, I think because one, remember the Maina was a civil servant, a deputy or assistant deputy director in the federal ministry before he absconded. And you see, along the line, I do not know how he had come to procure a black market reinstatement letter from the Office of Attorney General of the Federation. Of course, an office which, of course, knows the consequences by the provisions of the civil service regulations. When you say perhaps the office of the head of service of the Federation being put on notice, yes, I quite agree with you. I keep saying it, that the office of the head of civil service of the Federation had been put on notice on this matter, but she has refused to act upon it because she knew that it was an illegality. And of course, knowing very well that that office is saddled with or trusted with the duties of redeployment and posting, she could have acted almost immediately with a very high level of urgency, but she didn't do that because she knew that this was not the normal process to which you can recall somebody into the civil service, especially for someone who absconded for about 2 years and then incidentally resurfaces to be redeployed, to be reinstated in the civil service of this federation. I think, as a matter of fact, I want to say that that's why I think I am a custodian of information for that matter. So I should be able to tell Nigerians, because a lot of people do not know that the office of the head of service of the Federation has actually no business, did not play any role in the reinstatement of Maina, as claimed by the letters that are flying around the whole place. No, there was no role whatsoever. It ought to have played a major role, but it was sidelined in the process. Otherwise, you ought not to have written, the Federal Civil Service Commission ought not to have written to the Minister of Interior or the ministry that ought to be a beneficiary of the reinstatement, but to the head of service of the Federation, who will in turn now write to the ministry, which of course Maina should be reinstated. But that was not done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Uket, a former media consultant in the Ministry of Tourism. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you very much.
And that's it on Sunrise Daily from here in Abuja. I'm Neo Taigbe. Back to you guys.
Well, yes, that's the show as well. We appreciate your messages as well. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Train Berlin also.
Many twists indeed to the Maina situation. We'll try to keep tabs on it in the coming days. Thanks for watching. I'm Gimba Umar.